Well, what does the change in leadership in Afghanistan mean for terror threats in this country? As I said, the original mission there. Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark McMillan says senators over the weekend, he told them that the al-Qaeda threat may need to be reevaluated. So for more on the terror threats that may stem from Afghanistan, we're joined by ABC News contributor Elizabeth Newman, who served in the Department of Homeland Security during the Trump administration. Elizabeth, thanks for joining us. General Milley is who I was talking about, talking to senators, saying that we may need to reevaluate what's going on with relationship to al-Qaeda and Afghanistan. But it sounds like ancient history to me a little bit. As you look at what's happening on the ground in Afghanistan, do you see the Taliban as essentially an Afghanistan domestic phenomenon? Or do you see it as it was in the beginning of the century, as something that could host an international terrorist gang that could attack the United States?
Well, it's a good question, Terry, and I think it's going to take us some time to fully see what this new iteration of a Taliban government looks like. But there's no doubt that most intel analysis, and when I was in government, we were talking about withdrawing from Afghanistan really from the moment that Trump took the presidency. So it's certainly an analysis from 3 or 4 years ago, and the Taliban's much stronger now, was suggesting that it was inevitable that they would eventually regain control, and that such control would create a safe haven for terrorists to operate. Now, whether they would have the capability to launch an attack, maybe that takes more decades for them to be able to build that capability. Our layered defense strategy to protect the homeland is stronger, but that doesn't mean that we don't have enemies with intent to launch attacks at our homeland. They are determined, they are patient, and we just created a whole host more of grievances for the next generation to make the United States evil in the eyes of the Afghans that we have betrayed. We made promises for 20 years that we would protect those that helped us in our fight. And by walking out without a competent plan to allow them to evacuate safely, we are likely creating a whole host of grievance that we will be dealing with for generations to come.
Elizabeth, this withdrawal from Afghanistan seems to be one of the few areas where both the Trump and Biden administrations actually seem to agree. Former President Trump over the summer even said, I started the process and they couldn't stop it. So where do you think this went wrong? Was this a bad idea from the beginning, or did something go awry at some point?
You know, it is kind of fascinating to watch the polls. I've read some commentary, and I think there's some truth to it, that the American people really have not had a president explain to them why it's important for us to be in Afghanistan in really 15 years. So it's understandable when you have pithy campaign rhetoric saying that, we need to stop endless wars, that over time that builds up a momentum. And it's understandable. We had a rough go at it about 5 years ago in both Iraq and Afghanistan, but the situation that we're dealing with now is very different than 5 years ago. And the fact of the matter is, historically, we have left troops in place all over the world. That's how we prosecute, that's how we maintain our partnerships, and that's how we make sure that we have the ability to neutralize threats before they metastasize to the point that they actually reach our shores. So this idea that we were keeping 2,500 troops there primarily to encourage and support the local army, the local government, it's not outside the realm of a reasonable policy to have. So I find the debate a little off-putting about the fact that we had to leave. I do defer to more military experts as to what the long-term plan should have been, and there's no shortage of mistakes that we've made over the last 20 years. I think whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you can point to a lot of mistakes and what should be lessons learned over what we did wrong over the last 20 years. But it is, in my opinion, both the Trump and Biden approach to Afghanistan that we needed to withdraw down to zero was unreasonable and unnecessary. And but even if you give them that was their policy position, that they feel that they were elected based on that and they needed to draw down, my criticism of the Biden administration's handling of that drawdown is that it didn't need to be done this fast, and we made promises to close to 100,000 people people, we should have made it a priority to evacuate those people before we drew down our troops. There was no rush. There was no reason that they had to be out by September 11th. But there was some other factor. I don't know if it's pride or hubris, but something that was just incompetent about the idea that we would just pull down and that somehow assume that the 100,000 people that put their lives on the line to help our troops to prosecute a very difficult war, especially in the beginning, we abandoned them, we betrayed them, and that's unacceptable.
And Elizabeth, you know, this isn't the first time in recent history the U.S. has seemed to abandon our allies on the ground. Defense Secretary Mattis in the Trump administration, he resigned when President Trump decided to get out of Syria. He feared for the Kurds, for their safety, leaving them to fend for themselves. And now this, and I also note that the Chinese government has sent messages to dissidents in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, and to the people in Taiwan saying you cannot count on the United States if there is problems there. And so how is this impacting our influence in the world, do you think?
I mean, this is a moment in time that historians will look back on and be able to pinpoint a fundamental shift in the way the United States was viewed in the world. I hope we can recover from it, but it is also one of those points where you can look back and maybe say this is evidence of our decline. The fact of the matter is the way that we conduct our national security strategy is through partnerships. It allows us to not put as many men and women in harm's way when we walk into a country where we think a threat is manifesting and say, partner with us, we'll help you through these means if you do basically the hard work of going toe-to-toe with whoever the bad guy is. And those partnerships require the local partner to put a lot on the line. They are often dealing with tribal issues, or even it could be family members that they're going up against. This is how we do intelligence work. This is how we do military work. And the reason that we're successful in it is because the people that we're making these deals with believe us when we say, we will take care of you. We will make sure that we get you out if it gets too difficult, if your family gets threatened. We will make sure that you're taken care of. But we just showed that we don't keep our word. So why would anybody in the future sign up to an agreement that they're going to partner with us to counter a terrorist threat if it's in Africa or some other part of the world, let alone Afghanistan in a future generation if we end up with another terrorist threat emanating from there? Like we have fundamentally showed that we are a weak people, that we do not keep our word, and there will be consequences for generations because of this poorly handled situation of drawing down. And you know, usually when China says things like that, we say, oh, it's disinformation, no, it's propaganda. But in this case, sadly, it's the truth, and it's going to take a lot for us to recover from this.
All right, Elizabeth Nguyen, always great to have you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Diane.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.